In terms of case design, we have seen almost everything from Lian. Now it's time for another cool collaboration, I would say. This right here is Lian O11 Vision in collaboration with PCMR, so PCMR. And that is a new badge that you will be seeing on this case at the back. Now I left it open as such because I do have to admit, removing all the tempered glasses from the case and placing everything inside is outstanding and really easy to build. That is one thing I do have to say, and I really enjoyed building this one. So here we go. You don't have a top bracket, you don't have a possibility to mount a radiator here, fans or whatever, and their suggested fan orientation is intake here at the bottom, intake here on the side, and exhaust here with two 120mm fans. Now, when we're talking about the two 120 at the back, at the rear side, there's one possibility that this is manageable. And because of the removable motherboard tray, this is how you can manage to do that. So you have to lower the motherboard down, and then you get this part right here that is kind of an extender that is usually, when you take it out of the box, is placed down here at the bottom. So you swap the places with the motherboard tray and that additional part, and you get a possibility to mount two 120mm fans. Otherwise, if you decide not to do that because, I don't know, you want to have more space here at the bottom because you have a thick radiator here, thick radiator over there on the side, you want to go with a custom loop, you'll most likely raise it up a bit to get more access to the bottom part of the connectors on the motherboard if you have a thicker radiator, because this extension tray is quite thick, I would say about 5 centimeters, so this kind of explains for the thicker radiators and the possibilities to do that. Now, before we go into the benchmarks and all the other stuff, let's break it down with this case, because apparently every single case that I cover from Lian needs to have that extended video to give you some more insights about the thickness of the radiators, positions, modularity, versatility, possibilities, and all the other stuff. So as I mentioned, you have the removable motherboard tray. So you have two positions, low and high mode. The low mode is this one right here, where the extension part is right here at the top, giving you a possibility to mount two 120mm fans, while the high mode is placing the extension part, the cover, back at the bottom and leaving it stock as it comes out of the box. Now, in the removable motherboard tray, here we go, you have a possibility to place two 120mm fans with 240 radiator. At the bottom you can place three 120mm or three 140mm fans, and on the side 3 120mm or two 140mm fans, or 280 or 360 radiator. In the high mode, you can go on the side with 3 120 or 2 140 fans and 280 or 360 radiator. On the rear, 120mm fan or 120 radiator. And at the bottom we have a possibility in the high mode to place 3 120 or 3 140mm fans. Radiators can go from 280 to 360 with 53 to 95mm of maximum thickness. Now this is insane. This gives you a possibility to really go extreme with cooling and use those two mounting positions for the radiators to the maximum level. Now, taking into consideration air cooling and water cooling, there are two parts that they suggested even, so they did extensive testing. And for air cooling, they suggest the low mode. So this gives you what? This gives you intake at the bottom, intake on the side, and exhaust at the back. Because here in this position, low mode, you get two 120 for an exhaust, which makes more sense for the airflow. Water cooling, on the other hand, they suggest to go in a high mode, giving you a possibility to mount intake at the bottom, intake on the side, and one single exhaust at the back, which makes sense because it gives you a possibility for thick radiator, as you already know, and that's it. Now, they did some extensive testing. Since I don't have 13900K from Intel, I'm going to give you their information, what they tested out, and then I'm going to show you my benchmarks. So in O11 Vision, they have 6 intakes on push-pull combination on the side, 2 exhaust at the back, 3 intake on the bottom. They used Unifan P28. The CPU went up to highest temperature 95 degrees, GPU 65. I do have to mention the GPU. The GPU was Asus GeForce RTX 4090 TUF OC. And then we go to the average temperature. So the average was 85.2 and the GPU average was 63. When we compare it, because they gave us all that information, when we compare it to O11D Evo, side 3 intake, back is 1 exhaust, bottom is 3 intake, and the top is 3 exhaust, again Unifan P28. The maximum temperature on the CPU, the highest, was 96, so 1 degree more than in O11 Vision. The average temperature was 87.3, again for 2.1 degrees Celsius higher. The GPU was 64.6 and the average was 62.2. So you get higher temperature in O11D Evo, but lower temperature for the GPU in O11D Evo. So it's kind of, yeah, it goes both ways. If you're not concerned about this 0.4 Celsius degrees difference in the highest temperature for the GPU, and that's a 4090, and better thermals for your CPU, that's the thing. Now they did something really cool which I didn't expect, and honestly they could have just placed it there as such, but they added expansion slot for the ATX mode, so 6+1 expansion slots for the GPU and different expansion cards. So the first slot isn't used for the ATX motherboards, but if you decide to go with micro ATX or mini ATX, it's needed. Now, as I mentioned, when we're talking about the installation and build process, I'm really satisfied with it. So you remove first the top panel, which has 3, let's say, screws going inside the case to keep it safe and stable. And then you have another hinge that goes right here in the middle of the tempered glass and 2 thumb screws at the back. When you remove it, you do have to slide it backwards. Then you go on the front tempered glass. The front tempered glass is held by 1 thumb screw here at the back, but it is also magnetically connected to that front part in the middle, which is nicely covered with some black foil or whatever it is. But regardless of that, the front tempered glass goes inside. You have to use the thumb screw and it goes inside into this triangle here on the front tempered glass. The tempered glass on front and the side is cut by 45 degrees. Now, when we try to remove the front tempered glass, you have to remove that front panel where you can find the power on and reset button. So you remove that part, you have to detach the cable that is actually used for powering it on or off. And then you have 4 screws on the side and you have 1 screw on the front. This is good because it keeps the glass on the front really stable. Now, when we're talking about the side radiator or fan mounting, you have 2 positions, which gives you a possibility like reverse mode, let's put it this way. And I'm currently using the reverse mode, so the fans and the radiator are more placed inside the chassis and they are nicely hidden. So in this position you get 121.1 millimeter of clearance until radiator and fans start touching the GPU, or the bottom fans if we're discussing 120 at the bottom. If for some reason you want to place additional like push-pull combination and you want to put the side mounting bracket in the stock position, which gives you a possibility to place fans at the rear, radiator, and then like a push-pull combination, right? I already mentioned that, but okay. You get 79.6 millimeters of clearance before touching the GPU or the bottom fans. They thought of something quite clever. The case is risen from the table 27 millimeters, but that's not all, because we have additional 10 millimeters from the bracket, so where the fans are attached to the bracket, to the bottom part of the dust filter. So altogether you get 37 millimeters. They stated it's 40, but calculation says 37. You don't have too much dust filters to clean, honestly, because you have only one at the bottom, which covers the whole bottom part, and it's quite easy to remove. You just slide it out from the side and clean it off, push it back in, that's all. The back side has 2 perforated parts in the steel, which are really small, just enough for the airflow, but small enough to act as a dust filter. So the only dust filter is here at the bottom, and that's it. For the connection part, we have 1 microphone and audio jack, we have 1 USB Type-C, and we have 2 USB 3.0. I think that's quite enough. You can organize the cables here quite nicely, because They use the dual layer cable clips from O11D Evo XL. You can replace them to any position, as you can see on these hinges, and you have Velcro tie and you have additional steel, let's say, standoff where you can pull through the cables and give you more stability when doing everything else. When it comes to storage, as you might have noticed, we have that cable shroud or some sort of a door that can hide the cables quite nicely. Over there you can place 3 2.5-inch SSDs, and you have 2 additional cages for 3.5-inch hard drives. So those two can be designed or used to whatever suits your needs. So either 2 2.5-inch SSDs or 2 3.5-inch hard drives. We have a power supply cage as well, which is placed outside of the case for 15 millimeters. And it is intended for larger power supplies, but they managed to create 2 additional standoffs. So when you use the cables from the motherboard, you can zip tie them or tie them up however you wish. You can use a Velcro tie with Lian logo if you desire to do so, and reroute them through here, tie them up, and you don't have a mess of cables at the back. And finally, we go to the color scheme. You can go with black and white, and the MSRP is $139.99. And now information for the clearance. GPU length maximum is 455 millimeters, CPU cooler height is 167 millimeters, and the power supply can go under 220, so up to 220 millimeters. But I would definitely suggest going lower than that, because the cables, if you don't remove those cable clips, you'll most likely interact, depending on the power supply, interact with those clips with the cable connections towards your power supply. So just maneuver a bit and everything will be perfect. So here we go, guys. I think the yellow is the most appropriate color for this build, since we're talking about PC Master Race slash Lian Li case, and I think it goes quite nice with the theme and everything else. But regardless of that, as already stated at the beginning, I really enjoyed building in this one. It's seamlessly open, let's say open frame when you're building, but when you place the tempered glass and everything all on the sides and on the top and on the front, it creates a nice visual aspect for the build. This case really does give you full visibility, even though they sacrificed the top 360 radiator, and gave us actually loads of new features comparing it to O11, the Evo, O11, the Evo XL, and even using some of the parts from those two cases in this one to give us something new and interesting. The most interesting part is some sort of a variety of, well, different approach when we're talking about intake and exhaust, because here we have 2 intakes and 1 exhaust, so 6 fans creating intake and 2 exhaust. Even though for water cooling as such, I could have just placed the motherboard upwards, but I wouldn't get these 2 right here. And I honestly, for visual aspects, and when we're talking about 3 tempered glass sides, I do prefer having 2 fans here. Regardless of that, let's check out the benchmarks. AIDA 64 Extreme Edition CPU went up to 82 degrees Celsius and the clock speed was 4775 MHz, while the GPU was 61. When you take a look at some other cases that I reviewed so far, this GPU went up to 63 to 64, so even lower thermals on this one, and the idle temperature on this GPU was 29. So this is Gainward RTX 4070 Phoenix GS, and for the CPU we have AMD Ryzen 9 7900 X3D cooled with Galahad 2 LCD SL Infinity. As you can see, I have all the SL Infinity fans, and I do have to mention that the bottom and the sides are with the reverse blade. This is regular blade here at the back. Now, Cinebench scores, let's start with thermals. I did get higher thermals when we're talking about the CPU compared to the O11D Evo XL, so 78, 79, touching eventually once 80, but it stays there at 79, so that's 3 to 4 degrees more when you take into consideration everything and comparing it to O11D Evo XL. But the clock speeds are here, and it's quite interesting because it goes 4950, 4975, even touching once 5000 on average, which is outstanding. And then we go to the scores. I don't have to mention that all scores were above 26,500, even almost reaching 26,600 in a couple of benchmarks. I can see 597, 578, 26,587. So the average is quite high, 26,570, I would say, which is quite good. I'm really impressed with the case, and honestly, I didn't expect to have such combination of fans, intake and exhaust with, let's say, visual approach on the case that will be definitely appealing for some of you guys, and getting quite nice thermals and benchmarks at the same time. So what can I say? Lian Li always surprises us with something new and something that is quite interesting to look at, but at the same time still not sacrificing the performance, which is good and always appreciated. And then we have 3 tempered glass, top, side and front, which gives that visibility and visual aspect a bit more of an effect, I would say. So Lian Li O11 Vision, in collaboration with Lian Li and PC Master Race, is big thumbs up from me, and I'll give it a PC Crazy approved badge this time, because I don't know if I lately gave any badges to Lian Li, but this one actually deserves. First of all, because of this connection part right here on the corner for those 3 tempered glass panels, and combination with magnet lock and hinges, it's quite nicely done. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. The link is in the description, and I'll place Galahad 2 LCD SL Infinity, SL Infinity standard, regular and reverse blades, and of course black and white O11 Vision by Lian Li and PC Master Race. That'll be all for today, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and click the notification bell for future content, and I'll see you quite shortly in the new one. Thanks, bye bye.